everyone.
Hi everyone, welcome back to the Book Brood, and today we're bringing you our first weekly wrap-up since we've gone weekly. I'll go ahead and get started. The first thing I read this week was Captain Marvel. This is by Kelly Sue DeConnick. And this is part one of kind of new run for Captain Marvel. It's fun because they put her out in space. She kind of hangs out with the Guardians of the Galaxy, but this really lets her shine on her own. So I rated this 4 stars. It was a lot of fun.
Awesome. The first thing I finished this week was The Girl in 6E by A.R. Torre. And this is a story about a young woman who has not left her apartment in 3 years because she is obsessed with violence and she's concerned that she will kill people if she leaves her apartment. So she has everything delivered to her, and she works as a cam girl, having cyber sex, and that's how she pays the bills. And this story is mostly told through her perspective, but you do get small little perspectives from other people that interact with her. So I knew that going into this was going to have a lot of graphic sex scenes, and I knew that it was going to have a lot of graphic violence scenes, and I was fine with that. What I did not know was that there was going to be chapters from the perspective of a pedophile, and that really, I didn't know that, and it was a surprise, and I almost put this book down halfway through. I pushed through, and luckily it was not graphic in the pedophilia scenes, but it was still really disturbing, and so definitely be warned before you go into this. But I give it 3 stars.
All right. The next one I read was Hulk Red and Green. This is by Jeph Loeb. And this is a continuation in the run of the Red Hulk when he first appears. They're hunting him down. A lot of fun characters show up in this one. Moon Knight, Grey Hulk, Mr. Fix-It, and then a bunch of the female heroines show up at one point here, and that was a real fun part. Cool battle in there.
So is Red Hulk versus Green Hulk? Is that what's going on?
They didn't actually meet in this one. They're both in it, but they haven't confronted each other yet.
Oh, okay. It's like a setup.
Yeah, it's getting there. I don't know if the library has any more of these though, so we'll see. That might be the last of it.
Okay, the next thing I picked up was Meg. This is by Steve Alten, and I don't know if you can see that picture. That is a giant shark eating a Tyrannosaurus Rex. So I went into this story expecting like Sharknado or something in that vein of like really cheesy shark story. But actually, this was a really good thriller. I really enjoyed this. This is a story about a man named Jonas, and he used to be one of the best undersea, like, submarine pilots, or the one-man submersible undersea pilot. And something happened, and so now he teaches, and you slowly start to learn what happened and why he hasn't been in the water in several years. As he confronts that, and he goes back into the Marianas Trench, where a group of scientists are investigating why their early tectonic vibration detection system.
Seismographers or something like that.
Yeah, I don't remember, but they put a bunch of equipment down in the Marianas Trench, and then it starts malfunctioning, and they need to go check it out. And they consult Jonas, and he actually faces his fear and goes back down. And I don't want to give anything spoilery away, so I won't say exactly how this happens, but somehow a giant mega shark gets loose and gets to the surface and starts wreaking havoc, and Jonas has to lead a team to deal with that and to like track down the shark. And as long as you can get past the fact that the science doesn't really make that much sense, and it's about dinosaur sharks, like, this was a great thriller, and I absolutely enjoyed it. It was way better than I thought it was going to be. I actually gave this 5 stars. I really, really enjoyed this one.
Knows what it is and doesn't apologize.
Yeah, it was good for what it was, yeah.
Perfect. Right, the next thing I read was Birds of Prey by Gail Simone. This is actually part 9 of the run, and then I have part 8 up there that I'm going to read out of order. But this was a fun one. They're on an espionage mission, and there's this other team that's there to do, not so much to stop them, but just has an ulterior motive or an interest in something at this, big ticket event. But they're not enemies, but they have a lot of fun just like interfering with each other. It makes for a lot of fun interaction. So this had a really good section of the Birds of Prey story there. Give it 4 stars.
Nice. Very nice. The next thing I read was Carry On by Rowell. And this is an interesting story in that Rowell wrote a book called Fangirl, and in that book, I haven't read it, but there is a young woman who is obsessed with this fandom, and she's a huge fangirl, and she writes fan fiction. And after that story ended, the author was fine leaving the main characters of that story alone, but she needed more closure on the fictional characters in the fan fiction. And so she actually wrote this as a standalone fantasy novel that is supposed to be what that fangirl wrote. And it was pretty good. It definitely gives you a little bit of Harry Potter vibes in that it is set in a magic school and there's a chosen one, and he is prophesized to take down the main bad guy. But everything else is different, and I really appreciated how much the author made it her own story. The magic itself is so much different. The world is so much different, and I really enjoyed this. But it was like being dropped into the 7th story, like the last book in a series, because you're in the 7th year of school. And so there's a lot of past events that happened and are referenced, but they're not like
fleshed out.
No, it's good because they're not overly explained, and but through context you get it. And it's like, so you have the main character Simon, and he'll just randomly be like, oh yeah, in that time in 5th year when I almost got eaten by a chimera or something. And then a few chapters later, you'll have his roommate and arch nemesis, Baz, be like, oh yeah, this is kind of like that first time I tried to kill him in our 5th year when I tried to feed him to the chimera. And just things like that. So just in that sort of way, you kind of pick up on older events.
The history of the world and characters.
Right. But so this one, you have the final year at school and the final showdown with the bad guy, and a little bit after that all happens. I wish there was a little bit more afterwards, but it is what it is. I actually loved the first 3/4 of this, and the ending was a little rough for me. I didn't love it. I understand why the author did it, but I didn't love it. But it did make me drop it from a 5-star to a 4-star read. But this was cute, and it had an adorable gay romance in it, and it was like Harry Potter, but not. Like, it was its own thing, and it pushed all the right buttons for me, and I enjoyed it. 4 stars.
Nice. Next thing I read was Sonja. This one's by Gail Simone as well, and I'm finding I really like her comics, so I'm gonna search her out more. This character, like I've said in the goals video, is nostalgic for me because she was just a childhood character for me, so to revisit her in this new form was great. The story focuses on a fellow slave that she was a gladiator with in this kingdom, and they were rescued when the kingdom was sacked by a rival kingdom, and they were set free. And it's been 3 years later, and so the people that they are now are very different, and they're not exactly, friends anymore, even though they relied on each other to, for their lives. They were in the gladiator, the slave pits.
Right.
I gave that one 4 stars. It was a really good read.
Awesome. Yesterday, we sat down with the kids and Aaron put on Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets. And I made it maybe half an hour into it before I just could not take the inconsistencies anymore. And I got up and I had to leave the room. And I went into the library just to check one thing to make sure I was right, even though I haven't read this book in like a decade. And then I ended up just rereading the entire book of Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets. And I'm actually really glad I picked this up because I just flew through this. I have been wanting to do a reread of this series because, like I said, it has been like a decade since I've reread them. And I tried to reread the first one earlier in the year, and I had a really hard time getting back into it. But I flew right through this one, and I'm going to move on to the third one here soon. Because I've never reread 4, 5, 6, or 7. So I'm very excited to get back to this because it is so much of my childhood, but having another decade of experience, to come back into the story and seeing that it was still everything I remember it being and still so great. It's just awesome. So
that's great to re-experience a story and it's just as good.
Yeah.
And better.
Right.
Sometimes too. The next thing I read is New 52 Shazam Volume 1 by Geoff Johns. This is a lot of fun here. It's Billy Batson. He's a 15-year-old child, who gains the power of a dying wizard, and so he can turn into Shazam. And also, he doesn't know it, but Black Adam, the arch rival or enemy of Shazam, is looking for him. But, a 15-year-old kid doesn't know that, and he just, is playing around with his new superpowers. So it's a bit of a struggle for him to come into his own as a hero. This included a lot of his adopted family and just about being an orphan in general. And I really appreciated that about the story. It read a lot of heart to this book here. And surprisingly for DC, this Shazam was the only character in this. There weren't any crossovers.
Oh, interesting.
Characters in there, so it was, good. I gave that one 5 stars.
Awesome. I'm in the middle of a bunch of other things, but that's all I've finished.
Okay. All right, and then my favorite thing of this week was Blackest Night, again by Geoff Johns. This is the main part of this story, and it was really fun to read this one read it after I read all the side parts because I knew what all the characters were going off and doing on the side. And a lot of fun, just very exciting things happening all throughout. Just a universe-shattering event, and it definitely had a bang of an ending. So 5 stars on Blackest Night.
Awesome.
All right, and that does it for our weekly wrap-up. Thanks for hanging with us. Like, comment, subscribe. We'll see you next time.